Hello, everybody. This is the Halo 3 analysis commentary thing that I decided to do. I really like the director's commentary or whatever from Halo 1 and Halo 2, and they didn't make one for Halo 3, which is a little unfortunate, but I really like Halo 3, and I think Halo 3 does a lot of pretty interesting and cool design decisions, and yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk about it, do something a little bit different, and hopefully it turns out okay. Right. We're going to be going through the game on heroic mode, because if you read that little text blurb under heroic, it says, "This is the way Halo is meant to be played." And for that, after reading that 10 years ago, the game's almost 11 years old, I've been playing every Halo game on heroic since, because it's the way Halo is meant to be played. And that's the only loading screen we're going to see. So, I don't know, enjoy it.
They let me pick.
Hope you guys like the one loading screen.
Did I ever tell you that? Choose whichever Spartan.
So there's a little thing that's I guess a little concurrent throughout all Halo games, is that you don't really know how you get from Halo 1 to Halo 2. You sort of just end up on whatever, the Malta, the Cairo, whatever it's called, Athens, forget. And Halo 3, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense how you get to where Halo 3 starts. Now we can assume that this is like Truth's Forerunner ship, and then that's Master Chief falling off from it. We don't really know, and unfortunately, the last level of Halo 2 got cut, so it just sort of ends with Master Chief on the Forerunner ship. And then this is the next thing we get. It's a little weird. And they're not entirely, it's not entirely explained how much time has even passed between that cutscene and the next one that's about to show up. It could be weeks, it could be a week, it could be months. I mean, Truth is, you know, he's been able to dig through this whole city, find the way to activate the Ark, and humanity's been beaten back, but we really don't know how long it's been, because I always like to think it's only been like a couple days, because I don't know how Chief would survive if it's been longer than that, but yet how easily humanity's been beaten back by like the one Covenant ship or whatever. I don't know, it's very weird, but anyway, we get to see Halo 3 and all of its fantastic graphics.
Gel layer could have taken most of the impact.
I mean, wow, this blew me away when I first saw it, just because if you go to look at Halo 1, the shift from Halo 1 to Halo 2 is crazy, and the shift from Halo 2 to Halo 3 is unbelievable. This just looks so good, and you get to see all these like expressions and emotions on all these faces, and look at that smoke. You see like the heat of his cigar flashing. I don't know, it's just super impressive. I like it a lot.
Heavy lift gear. We're not leaving him here.
Yeah, you're not.
Oh, crazy fool. Why do you always jump? One of these days, you're gonna land on something as stubborn as you are. And I don't do bits and pieces.
Well,
Where is she, Chief?
it's always good to see. It's always good to hear Sergeant Johnson. It's always nice to start a game with him.
If you know you can't keep it.
She stayed behind.
Corporal, make it quick.
Alright, so
Sorry, sir.
this is sort of like the tutorial
Armor's
camera
still in
invert
partial lockdown.
uninverted thing, but it gets skipped if you play it on heroic or legendary, which is good because assuming if you start the game on heroic or legendary, you know how to work your camera.
The arbiter's with us. Come on now. Got enough to worry about without you two trying to kill
Johnson's
each
cigars disappeared. That's alright,
Were it so easy.
I'm not gonna poke stuff out like that. Though there is the story eventually
We must
starts
go.
kind of falling
Prove
apart,
ourselves.
but
Then they must love the smell of heroes.
so that's one of Sergeant Johnson's lines that change based off the difficulty you start the game on. He says a different line for whatever difficulty, and they have a couple things like that in Halo 3, and they've done it in Halo 2 before. Anyway, this is just sort of like the little walking training thing, teaching you how to move, how to crouch and jump and stuff, but it's not like movement is very complicated in Halo, so instead we're just going right to the first big firefight. We skip past the brute and a couple grunts, because now we get to the real big thing. And this is actually a pretty cool introduction to how you would fight enemies, in the sense that, as we're going to see later on, even in the first level, is enemies usually have the higher ground, and you're constantly trying to fight through them. But here, the enemies are the aggressors, and we have the high ground, and you sort of see it as like a Colosseum pit kind of thing. And on lower difficulties, the grunts usually hang around in that little pit. And I think it's just a really cool idea. So this is how you really introduce fighting, is you get them in an area where it's very easy to attack them. And here we get to see something else that also existed in Halo 2, but we get in a lot more visual style of like these in-game, in-the-moment sort of cinematic style things that usually are brutes holding somebody and then throwing them. It's pretty cool to see it in Halo 3, sort of see these animations while you're still in control. Speaking of that, this cutscene works the exact same way as the one we just saw, where we can skip the cutscene and you'll still see Johnson get kicked and punching. You'll still see all this still happening in real time, which is pretty cool. But so this is sort of dam area of the level. We want to get to the left side and we start on the right side, and we want to try and battle our way through it, which is, in my opinion, just like pretty interesting. It's not a long linear hallway. It's not sit down and like do a sort of Alamo hunker down section while you're fending off enemies. There's a little bits of both of those, but anyway, so this is actually pretty cool. You're supposed to go down this hall, across the dam, across this bridge, and fight all these brutes and all these jackals, but I'd actually died a couple times, so I decided that my strategy of running down the dam wasn't the best one, so instead I'm going to go underneath it. And there's a lot of moments like this in Halo 3 and in other Halo games I've talked about in other videos. Being able to really just sort of not be limited to doing one thing. You know, we have flanking options, we have different weapons and styles of play, and you can see this getting into their back line and really messing them up. Worked out really, really well. I think there's it's just a really fun sandbox to kind of play around in that doesn't necessarily show up in a lot of other first-person shooters, which definitely feel a lot more linear. Like even then, this is a very linear area, but they gave me more than one option to tackle it, and so I took a different option and it ended up working out really well. So yeah, we're gonna free Johnson. We're gonna run back to the top of the bridge or dam, and then we're just gonna get out of here. I'd love to spend so much more time talking about all the things that every level does, but this this video is long enough as it is. Oh, all right. That's a nice little just touch on the shoulder. Show a little bromance between the two of them. And yeah, there we go. Now we're on to the next level.
Tell the commander her ace is in the hole.
And this is sort of the only shot sort of thing that we really get to see that humanity's not winning this, right? Because that hasn't really been explained, but you get to see all these Marines are really injured and beaten up. That guy doesn't have any eyes.
Where did you find him?
There's Miranda.
I'll bet.
I don't really think Miranda just gets enough screen time, honestly.
Let's get you up to speed.
She gets a lot of voiceover, particularly in this game, since we don't have Cortana with us, so the main female voice of the game is going to be Miranda. And here we get to see some more Marine faces. They look more detailed and fleshed out and different than the usual just like one Marine model that was just kind of copy-pasted.
Then they started digging.
And here Miranda is explaining to us the plot of Halo 3, I guess. So Halo 1 is very scary. There's this one ring, it's going to shoot a laser and kill a bunch of stuff. Halo 2, there's this one ring, it's going to shoot a laser, it's going to kill a bunch of stuff. How we amp it up for Halo 3? Well, now we're going to activate all 7 rings that are going to blow up the galaxy. So,
The rings will kill us all.
yeah. So they really just kind of show, they turn it up, make the threat 7 times worse. Here we have Ron Perlman coming back from Halo 2 to revive his role as Lord Hood. Oh man, Ron Perlman's got such a good voice. I wish I'd see him in more video games. Most of the voice actors in Halo 3 are really good.
But if we neutralize one of the batteries, punch a hole in Truth's defenses.
I'll initiate a low-level strike. Hit him right where it hurts.
So this is sort of the explanation of what their plan is going to be, which is do sort of just a one piercing attack into truth and take him out.
Generators, now.
Shielding failed. They're down and charged.
If you didn't
As soon
remember,
as
or
they're up, reestablish contact with
it didn't seem like it
Let
made a
him
whole
know.
lot of sense, it's fine. So they're talking about truth. Who's truth? Well, we don't know anything about him. If you haven't played the second game, this is truth. It's one of the 2 cutscenes I think he has before the level we kill him. So this is like his big sort of terrorist video that he sends, and he's just like, I'm the villain. If you need to know who the villain is, it is me. And he's in this. So I find it very funny just the more I watch it.
Will of the gods. And I am.
You have like a very human moment from Master Chief.
Cocky bastard.
I love this line from
Loves
him.
to run his mouth.
Does he usually mention me?
That's great. That's like a non-military line from Master Chief,
Give the
and he's
order.
talking
We're closing
about,
shop.
Ma'am?
We're
um,
about to get hit.
you know, it's just nice to see Chief
Wounded.
wonder what
Getting all
people
of them
think of him.
Need evacuation.
I have to carry him myself.
Ma'am, squad leaders are requesting a rally point.
You have this line from Miranda, which is just a classic kind of Halo line.
To war.
Yep. It was pretty fun. It's got a lot of comedy in it, and then they try to deliver these like really cool lines. And I love this. Miranda just walked away, and now just immediately turns around and walks back. Oh man, she's just like, to war, walks away, and then stops, put the pistol away, turn around, walk backwards. Anyway, so now we're gonna be going through this level, which probably has, just visually watching it, the most backtracking in Halo. Here's our first instance of it. So we had to walk all the way, clear out the Pelican docking area of all the Covenants so all the Marines can escape, and now we have to walk all the way back to where we started the level. And we're gonna do this walk, I think, a total of 3 times. If you were to go a little bit to the left, down that path, you could see the Rooster Teeth. The Rooster Teeth Easter eggs, which are pretty cool. I was a pretty big fan of Red versus Blue at the time, so like seeing that in the game was awesome, hearing those guys. Anyway, yeah, so we're walking all the way backwards. And I think because the level isn't literally just straight, it's got all these curves in it, it makes it a little bit forgivable. And they shift when enemies come out, what those enemies are. Backtracking is probably the worst here in this level, but anyway, here we have another little like vignette of a bugger coming in, attacking him, though. I'm a softie, I want the Marine to live, so I save him, I don't want him to get carried off. Anyway, so I just used a little bit of one of the new things from Halo 3, which is an item, like a bubble shield or a generator. That was deployable cover. Anyway, and then this is a turret, and this is the second introduction, and my favorite out of the 2, which is the ability to just rip turrets off and then carry them around like an 80s action hero. There's 4 turret-like weapons in the game. We have the machine gun, which I'm currently using, the Covenant like plasma rifle machine gun, and then you have the missile launcher, we'll see later on, and the flamethrower. And they're really cool. I think that idea is really cool. We had turrets in the other Halo games, but being able to walk around, they're really powerful, and they don't have unlimited ammo once they get removed. Anyway, so they're going to plant a bomb, they're going to blow up the base, and they're hopefully take out a couple Covenant with them. So this is the start of one of my favorite areas in the entire game, if not like my favorite area in the entire game, which is the barracks section. And you can see I'm struggling a little bit, but there's so much natural cover in Halo 3, but particularly in the barracks section, there's so much natural flow between high ground and low ground, which creates a really interesting sort of dynamic during combat. And one of the best things I really think is the fact that we fight brutes a lot. Now, just kind of like in Halo 1 and a little bit in Halo 2, fighting elites is probably the most fun because they're the most kind of like most like Spartans, and brutes take that place in Halo 3, where brutes have a very similar weapon set, move set to Master Chief, and so fighting them is a lot more enjoyable, at least to me, than killing grunts. That's Nolan North voice acting the guy who gets his head slammed into a pole. I'm using That's one of the new grenades that got added in Halo 3, the Brute Spike Grenade, I think that's what it's called. It's just like a sticky grenade. Yeah, anyway, so you can really see the different, like you can clearly see the levels of high ground and low ground and the different ways you can approach handling this. Now you could have stayed on the low ground and just hid behind cover and shot these guys and used a bunch of ammo. You can even climb up even higher up those ladders and crouch around in the vents and land behind them for an ambush attack. I really like kind of getting into the thick of things, but you can see just naturally how there's a lot of places for the brutes to take cover, for me to take cover. Yeah, I'm gonna use the regenerator. Yeah, and you can just see how the level is lined up, that it fits in the context of the world. So it's natural in the sense that this is, you know, barracks would probably look like this, I guess. It makes sense. It also has like enough cover and mobility that it makes it a lot of fun to play around in the game. And Halo 3 is really good at doing stuff like that. And as much fun as I have in the barracks, and I, again, love to talk about it, we just got to keep going. We backtrack all the way back to the Pelican hangar for a second time, and then we get in an elevator after activating the bomb and blowing up the base. And this, we get a little bit of a Cortana flashing. It happens in the first level, and it's going to happen throughout the entire game, where gameplay sort of slows down, if not halts completely, for Cortana to say some stuff to you.
This place will become your tomb.
What happened?
And that's it. We actually don't get a cutscene to transition us from the elevator to the next level, which is, I think, Savo Highway. I think that's what it's called. And this is like the Warthog level of the game. You know, every game kind of has the tank level. It's got the Warthog level. And this is the Warthog level of Halo 3. That's Nathan Fillion, who I recently learned was in the game, and I'm very excited about. I really like Nathan Fillion as a voice actor. And that's Steve Blum. That's great. I'm gonna stop pointing out voice actors, but man, it's fun to hear him in there now that I can recognize him. But anyway, so here we go. Warthog, we kind of know all about the Warthog by now. They added this power drift, or power slide to it, which can kill enemies, and it makes it a little bit more dramatic, just being able to slide into stuff. But what I really want to talk about is this right here. You see the chopper, and then it, boom, it breaks the Warthog open. This is the first time you'll see a brute chopper in the game. And I love that, how every time it's going to break that Warthog, just to show you that the choppers are really effective against light vehicles. They'll instantly kill them if they ram them head on. And how the first thing you're going to see of a chopper is them doing the most dangerous thing they can do is really cool, and I think it's a really smart design. Get a pretty nice visual of the Covenant ship just soar over us, and you get to see the storm above where Truth's Forerunner ship is. And even though I said this was the Warthog level, the Warthog, mainly because of the AI, I don't think the AI are as aggressive as they need to be as Warthog gunners. The Warthog just is very bad, particularly when you get to the second half of the level, and it's just easier for me to jack a Wraith. Yep, and here we go. And now we're getting ready to start my favorite level of the game, which is the Storm. And the Storm's kind of cool
We made it.
because
To my ears, Commander.
the...
What
Oh,
about
I
yours?
love this music.
Fully uncovered, sir.
And we don't have much time. Marines,
And again, the plan is we're going to take out a bunch of anti-aircraft
take right off his
and a bunch of anti-air cannons, and we're going to lead a ship assault into that Forerunner ship of truth.
one final effort is all that remains.
And yeah, I don't know, that's the game plan. And I feel the need to reiterate it because, honestly, until I played through the game and really paid attention, it's kind of hard to really figure out why you're doing half the stuff you're doing in Halo 3.
Prophet of Truth has found the Ark.
Anyway, so here's another level that starts without a cutscene.
Clear this sector
And it's actually, I think, the only level in the Halo trilogy that starts you in a Warthog,
Good hunting.
let alone in the passenger seat of a Warthog. So that's, I don't know. I guess it's not particularly interesting, but it is one of the few things that has it. And you get all these little Marines to follow you around. You get your own like little squad. And it's pretty cool. The idea is to sort of like guide your vehicles in so you can eventually use them later, because we're going to be using vehicle and vehicle action. Well, you're supposed to. I have different plans, but... So the goal, kill a bunch of Wraiths. Here we see an anti-air Wraith, which is new to Halo 3. And also a new thing about Wraiths are the machine guns are their own person. They're not just attached to the drivers of the Wraith. Which, if you don't remember from Halo 2, in single player, Wraiths had machine guns. Kind of like little laser pistols they could shoot at you. And this actually makes taking down the Wraiths a lot harder when you don't have a sniper rifle.
That away, Chief. Target destroyed.
Once you kill all the Wraiths,
Something big closing in on your location.
we get a boss fight. I call it a boss fight. I don't think it really is a boss fight any other time, but here it definitely feels like a boss fight, and it's pretty cool. It's the Scarab encounter. And if you guys remember the Scarab from Halo 2, it's this big deal. There's like 2 levels about it, and you go on, you fight it, and you try to take it out. Here, the Scarab isn't like a piece of moving map. It's not a piece of moving geometry. Instead, it's its own vehicle. It's got its own AI, and that's pretty cool. You know, you can damage its limbs. There's a bunch of different ways to take out the Scarab, and my way is not particularly the most effective, though it is my favorite way to fight the Scarab. Take this elevator up here, just because when else are we going to find these little crane elevators in Halo 3? Unfortunately, the Scarab doesn't get shown off the best in this attack, because it doesn't really attack a lot of things. But you can see there's mongooses down there with Marines with rocket launchers, and that's kind of the way they want you to... They give you an option to do that, so you can drive around with a mongoose while your friend or Marines are shooting at its limbs with rocket launchers. And that's a really cool way to tackle it. But again, I don't really like the AI on the Marines in Halo 3. They're just too conservative. So... I'm trying not to shoot myself, and I'm failing miserably. But anyway, so now we get to do how I like to take out Scarabs, which is get all up and personal. And I really like the Scarab redesign here. Anyway, we are playing a video game, and the Scarabs are very video gamey in the sense they have this massive weak spot that you just shoot, and then you win. Take a couple shots, but there we go. Now, I kind of forgot I was recording here, because I should have turned around and visually saw it explode, but instead I turn around, get an unnecessary headshot, and then walk away. Alright, so moving on past the Scarab. Scarab encounter's super cool. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot more fun, I think, in Halo 3 to kill a Scarab than it is to kill the Scarab in Halo 2. Alright, and you can see here's a brute chieftain. Instead of with a hammer, he's got a fuel rod. And unfortunately, I missed the 3rd shot, and I don't get to kill him. I really like this sort of scene. It's very, like, Normandy storming the anti-air guns. Because you got a whole bunch of Marines and human workers that you've just protected and collected throughout the entire level. And just leading them all up here to assault the anti-air gun is really cool. Yeah, we kind of like fast forwarded through that level, but fear not, because the entire next level we're gonna backtrack through that entire level in the next one. So, but they do it a little bit more classy than how I'm saying it. So here we have a bunch of swordfish, I think that's what they're called, and they're going in. They're gonna attack Truth. And here we have the UNSC frigates, which I just love these designs. And I talked about it in another Halo video I made, but I really enjoy how the human vehicles and ships particularly are rectangular, and they're like dark colors, and they're very distinguishable from the Covenant ships, which are round and like purple or bright colors comparatively. So you just have to look at a screenshot and be like, oh, I can tell that is one side, that's the other side. And one of those sides has English letters on it, so you can assume who's human and who's alien.
This is the way the world ends.
Anyway, so this is this is the first of 2 times there is going to be a faction leader with a fleet ready to kill Truth with their spaceships, and Truth escapes, and the Flood show up. Now I don't know if this is if this is like lazy writing, if it's supposed to symbolize symmetry between the 2 factions, or if it's just a coincidence. I'll bring it up again when it happens. I find it very funny. Again, though, we've actually only seen Truth in Halo 3 one time in that cutscene. I'll point it out again because I feel like that is a pretty big problem with Halo 3, at least narrative-wise, for the amount of effort and love and content that is actually put in Halo 3 single-player campaign. I feel like their story definitely started falling apart.
Worse.
So the Flood have just now shown up, and we're gonna later find out that we think Cortana is on that Flood ship, and that's how it got here. Because, you know, Cortana from the end of Halo 2 was trapped with the Gravemind on High Charity.
How do we contain it?
Find the crashed Flood ship. Overload its engine core. We either destroy this city or risk losing the entire...
Now, that's a really weird line of dialogue. Find the... Overload its engine core, blow up the city. That actually doesn't get mentioned ever again. Because it kind of gets replaced in favor of find Cortana, get Cortana. And then that's... And we're going to watch the following cutscene where that sort of just gets forgotten about. It's very weird to me, so maybe they end up doing it anyway. I don't really know. But here we have it, the Flood in Halo 3, and now they can control brutes. I think they could control brutes in Halo 2, but I don't remember. And here we have Robert Davi as the ship master. I forgot his name for a second. And now here we get to see elites drop in and just start killing Flood, and this is the first time you get to fight alongside elites as Master Chief, and it's very cool. But we're on Heroic, and Heroic is difficult, and I don't want to fight things and waste ammo if I don't have to, and the elites are very capable. They got this. And that is actually another like vignette cutscene that if I skip the cutscene, that's all still gonna happen just in real time. Anyway, in this level, this is the first introduction of the Flood in Halo 3, and they actually have a new type of Flood. We're not going to see a lot of it here, but it is in the level a lot. I just don't have footage of it. And they're going to be a type that morphs between 3 types of Flood. Let's keep going here. You see one of them that's the ranged attack version where it shoots a bunch of like needles at you. There's a crawler sort of version that moves very fast and doesn't attack very well. And then there's a slow sort of hunter-looking one, which are these guys on the left. But they do a lot of damage and are pretty hard to kill. So we're making our way to the crash ship, and we're trying to get Cortana. The Arbiter is elected to stay behind while we go into the Covenant ship to get her. So Cortana can stop the game and make the game slow down while she says a bunch of like garbage. She says a bunch of weird stuff. I wouldn't say it's exposition. She just kind of like quotes weird things at you. And the Gravemind can do it too, apparently. So
Cortana.
The Prophet's holy city is on.
that's a decision about Halo 3 that I'm very confused on, as it is. Just the slowing down, but I guess they wanted to try and get Cortana in the game and the Gravemind in the game, and that was their solution for it.
Before your construct suffers any further trauma.
And now here's Guilty Spark. This is the first time Chief and Spark have met since Halo 1, and Spark now has like a laser beam.
You tried to kill Cortana. You tried to kill me.
And this is a good one from Spark.
Dictated my response. She had the activation index, and you were going to destroy my installation. You did destroy my installation.
I love that one. That one's so good.
Only one function, to help you.
And especially the way he delivers it just shows that Spark isn't like, he's got like a little bit of a dark side on him. I don't know. And I think that delivery's super good. That line's super good. Actually, that scene I think wasn't even supposed to be here, that interaction, because you can look up some cut dialogue, I think on the following level where you need Spark to open up a door to let tanks pass. And they kind of have like a very similar thing where Chief confronts Spark, and Spark says like, "Oh, you blew up my installation," and they don't seem as whatever, as friendly with each other. But I don't know, I'm not a developer for Halo 3, I have no idea.
That will not.
But anyway, here we have Robert Davi and Ron Perlman talking to each other, and it's gonna be great. I'm gonna love it.
On its way to Earth with an army of Flood. I can't tell you everything. It's not safe. The Gravemind, it knows I'm in the system.
It's just a message.
Let it play.
A very Princess Leia-y.
It doesn't know about the portal, where it leads. On the other side, there's a solution, a way to stop the Flood without firing the remaining Halo rings.
Okay, so see, now that is something that I'm gonna bring up later. This whole thing is very weird because I feel like it all gets forgotten. So to relay what Cortana just said, the Gravemind is on High Charity, the spaceship city, and it's heading towards Earth, right? She now knows about the portal, and she knows about the Ark, and I don't know how. I guess they have information of that on High Charity.
We'll remain here.
And she has a plan to stop the Flood, which is on High Charity, on its way to Earth, without firing a single Halo ring. And I don't think I'm being nitpicky here, because this is like a thing that gets brought up until the very end of the game.
Maybe the Flood is no life.
It's unfortunate I'm talking over this, but it's alright. You can just watch a different video in Halo 3 where they don't have some idiot talking over the cutscenes.
Sir, with respect, Cortana has a solution.
Cortana? Did you see her condition? How damaged she is?
So we just have him being really skeptical, and I love this. I love how Chief doesn't have a face, right? He's just a helmet. He's like a suit. And so him having any sort of body movement to show emotion, I think, is pretty good. They do a really good job about it.
Final stand here at Earth.
And I think they do a pretty good job most of the time showing Chief
last man, woman, and child
have emotion. I mean, his hands are no longer on the table. But,
just have a chance.
Oh well.
If your construct is wrong, then the Flood is already won.
I'll find Cortana's solution, and I'll bring it back.
Earth is all we have left. You trust Cortana that much?
Sir. Yes, sir.
This is either the best decision you've ever made or the worst. Hell of it is, Chief. I doubt I'll live long enough to find out which.
This is a very long cutscene. I do like this scene about it a lot. I love how the Elite has got his arms crossed. He's hanging out on his space motorcycle. You see Johnson picking up his beam rifle, his gun from the end of Halo 2. And you got a bunch of ODSTs here, and you see the Arbiter walking around with the flamethrower that he's going to use later on in the game. I just love this scene a lot. It's nice. It's a nice scene. I wish there was more human Elite interaction, but you only got so much time, can't fit everything in. Alright. And now we're on our way through the portal to fight Truth with the Elite spaceships. Because I guess all the human spaceships were defeated, or maybe they're just not being sent because they want to use them to defend Earth from potential Flood. But they also never talk about how they're resolving the Flood that's currently in the city, so I guess it's getting taken care of off screen. Anyway, here we go. We're getting ready. This cutscene is pretty cool. I like this cutscene a lot. Halo 3's got a lot of callbacks to other Halo titles, and I'll talk about them in a bit just because I absolutely love this line said by the Shipmaster. It's so cheesy 80s action movie.
Staggered line. Shipmaster. They outnumber us 3-1. Then it is an even fight. All cruisers fire at will.
That line.
Burn their mongrel hides.
Oh man, it's great. About callbacks to it's other Halo games. One, this music I think is the exact same song that plays in Halo 2 when you and the ODSTs take a drop pod down to Halo. Instead, you're dropping on with Pelicans down to the Ark. But it's very familiar in sense. God, it just looks so cool seeing just all these ships. I really wish we got to see some of the ships battle each other, but you know, focus is on these guys. I'll take what I can get. Some other callbacks we're gonna get is that we're kind of actually going after the cartographer. So it opens in a very familiar way to the silent cartographer. You're in a pelican, you're soaring, there's another pelican with you. It's a very familiar opening to the silent cartographer. Very much a callback. As soon as we land, it's actually going to be more of a callback to the third mission from Halo 3, whose name I just don't remember. You know, we have the sniper rifle and it's nighttime, and you're with Sergeant Johnson, and they're like, oh, Chief, you get the first shot, and something, you know, we're going to have the exact same thing happen here, and I still think it's really cool. Just the callback, just like, it really makes it feel like we're in another part of the series, a real ending one where they're hitting all the high notes. And just looking around, you can see, like, I think Halo 3 just looks really good. I mean, I'm playing this on an Xbox 360, and I still think it looks really good. Got all these details, like the being able to see all the guys through the scope is really cool. Anyway, I'm gonna try and get some headshots. I don't know if you can actually kill those brutes in one shot, the ones with the face helmets. As opposed to the ones with the helmets that cover their faces, I think require at least 2 shots, but anyway. Yeah, this level is actually pretty long. It might be one of the longest levels in the game. We do a lot of movement. We fight through a bunch of Covenant on foot. We make our way from the outside of the mountains through the mountains. And now here we are, we're fighting the Brute Prowlers. And this is the introduction of the Prowlers. And the Prowlers they're the Brute version of the Elite Spectres. And if you don't remember what the Spectres are, it's understandable. They're basically the Covenant version of the Warthog. And I think they look alright. I still really just don't care about any of the Covenant Warthogs. The Spectre or the Prowler, I just don't care about it. The Warthog is fun, especially like the Gauze Warthog I like a lot, but this, whatever, I can't care. And here we have the Mongoose, and I'm actually going to give this guy, I kind of think about it for a second. I'm going to give him my rocket launcher, just because when allies use weapons, they don't run out of ammo, so he's going to have an infinite ammo rocket launcher, and hopefully he's going to be useful. I don't really remember, because we just don't have time to see me go through and have a bunch of vehicle fights. But the vehicle fighting in this level is really good. In fact, I just went and killed a bunch of anti-aircraft wraiths to have the frigate land. And we have Sergeant Johnson and the Pelican next to me. And I really like this scene. I love how the pressure of the air or whatever from the frigate's knocking all the debris of the vehicles away. I think that's really cool. And playing this big epic music because this is the tank part of the level. You know, this is the tank level of Halo 3. And what makes it even cooler than other tank levels in other Halo games is that usually you're the tank and then other people are running around or hanging out on top of the tank or something like that. In this level, you're one of 3 tanks. You're still like the main tank because you're, you know, your Master Chief. You gotta be. You gotta do all the hard work, but now we're running around with 3 tanks, and I think that's super cool, just to show, you know, the improved power of the Xbox 360 to have more vehicles on screen and more AI running around. Tank, really powerful. Probably my second favorite vehicle in Halo 3. You can see it's a little bit different from Halo 2 because we're not in charge of the machine gun. We have a guy who I think is Nolan North this time around as our machine gunner. This makes it a little bit more balanced because I think the Scorpion was way too good in Halo 2. I think it's still way too good in Halo 3, but anyway. a lot of fun just like popping these grunt ghosts, just like little zits, just one pull of the trigger and boom, they're gone. They're gone. Very satisfying feeling, and it's really cool. But now we have our second scarab encounter. Now the first time I fought the scarab, I went and jumped on top of it, and you actually, if you're really cool, you can ride a warthog or a ghost and use that building as a ramp and land on the scarab. I wasn't good enough to do it here, so instead I elected to 1v1 the scarab with my scorpion. Now this is the other way you can kill the scarab instead of jumping on top of it, is blowing up its legs and making it sort of just get destroyed if you blow up enough of its legs. You can sort of hear it just like making all those noises. You see the lights are flashing red. I'm trying to knock his butt armor off. I have played this game a lot, so it definitely might feel a little bit more anticlimactic looking at it. At least it does to me. It is very satisfying fighting these things, and it's just such a cool fight that you can tackle scarabs in a bunch of different ways. And yeah, I caught the explosion on camera this time. We got to go through this building to find out where Truth is, where the activation room is for the Ark. And here I am invisible, which is a multiplayer ability we can pick up, and I'm using the thermal grenades, or whatever they're called, incinerator grenades, I forget what they're called. And you can see that we've used all 4 grenades now, so there's 4 types of grenades, and you can hold 2 of each instead of there being 2 types of grenades, which you hold 4 of each. Still 8 grenades in total, and now I don't really know why they made that decision. I can take a huge guess, though, and say that the flame grenades are just really powerful, and I think having 4 of them would be not fun, and also having 16 grenades would be a lot of grenades, and that wouldn't be entirely fun to just have grenades as your primary source of fighting guys. And here I'm using the gravity hammer. Forgot what it was called. Gravity hammer is pretty cool. You know, just give Tartarus his hammer from Halo 2 and give it to the brutes.
Commander.
Johnson, look sharp.
You see a bunch of sentinels. They have a job to do. Earlier in this level, Guilty Spark kind of like noticed them and made some sort of comment of, "Oh, that's interesting," or "Oh, or whatever. It's kind of a little bit relevant just because this is actually some really good foreshadowing later on in the plot. I've been given a lot of shit about, you know, we kind of dropped that whole blowing up the spaceship to stop the flood plot. Miranda literally just said we don't have time to worry about Cortana and her mission to stop the flood. And so, like, who even knows how we're gonna find Cortana or her mission, right? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We just keep going. And now we get a really cool level, the Ark. And it's the Covenant, or it's the Elites, and it's the UNSC, and they're gonna team up, and they're gonna take down Truth. This is the level. Again, we've seen Truth in 2 cutscenes, right? 1 cutscene? 1 cutscene so far. There's been 1 cutscene. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. He's been in 1 cutscene. And I guess it's just one of those problems that we're looking at this from Master Chief's perspective, right? This is the only point of view. And, well, he's not running into Truth anytime soon, so. And this is the introduction of the Spartan laser, which is one of my favorite weapons, just in any game. But I'm not really going to be using it. I am super out of practice, so I'm just going to jump through it and take out another anti-aircraft raid. We've been doing a lot of that. This level has a little bit of backtracking in it, but it's not too bad. They do some pretty creative stuff that make the backtracking or the repeat of geometry also not that bad. This is another vehicle heavy level, but actually this level has a lot of balance between on the ground assault and vehicles. So we're gonna use a vehicle to get into a tower to deactivate a generator. So we get a lot of vehicle combat in that, and then in the tower we have a lot of groundwork to fight stuff, and then we're going back into a vehicle, back into a tower, back into a vehicle, back into eventually where truth is. So we have a lot of good fighting, and this is a really well designed level. I like it a lot. We're also going to be jumping through a couple different like biomes. We went from beach, now we're in like the forest, mountainy forest area. And this is a pretty good area to fight stuff in. I think they did a really good job. Now I'm gonna have a bunch of really bad grenade throws, and it is what it is. But I see a couple more grenades, and I think the combat in itself in Halo 3 is pretty well defined. Yeah, the combat's really satisfying, and they have a lot of different tools to sort of play around with. The additional grenades make it a little bit more fun. There's some new weapons. The turrets that you're able to rip apart are really cool, and just having like these abilities like bubble shield, invisibility, this stuff's all pretty cool and pretty interesting. So that was the first tower, and in the first tower we mainly fight jackals, grunts, and brutes, right? The Arbiter took his tower down, and poor Johnson, he gets captured for a second time in Halo 3 and for a third time in the series, because Johnson got captured in Halo 2, and now Johnson has gotten captured for a second time. Anyway, now we get to use the Hornet. The Hornet's my favorite vehicle in Halo 3. It's so satisfying to use. You're going to watch me just mop up this Covenant air assault. Just a bunch of dogfighting and stuff like that. It's very cool. What makes me like the Hornet so much more than the Banshee, and it's so cool to use, is not just the rockets. The rockets are very cool. What is really cool about the Hornets are that you don't have to always be going forward. With the Banshee, you always have to be moving forward. You can only shoot in front of you and stuff like that, but you have a lot more control. You can kind of like hover in place, and that's just really satisfying. It makes using the Hornet really cool. And here we see the Arbiter landing, so he can get in on the cutscenes. So Halo 3 actually is the first Halo game, I think, with online co-op. And I guess they decided to have a little bit more emphasis on the co-op and through the campaign, a little bit more co-op campaigns. So they have it, instead of you playing as another Master Chief, you now can kind of fit in playing as the Arbiter. And they want to make it canon, canonically have the Arbiter be around, so some cutscenes, you start off with just Master Chief, and they kind of like just sneak the Arbiter in. He comes in off of like a spaceship or like a transport or through a vent. And he just kind of like pops in and out of the single player campaign if you're playing solo, just because, you know, he's in some of these cutscenes. And they kind of, going through the game, you can kind of watch when they're like, oh crap, we made this cutscene without the Arbiter. How do we get the Arbiter in it? Oh, he walks out of the door. He walks out of the room. He stays behind to hold him off. And I don't know. I think it's very clever. It's very clever. But at the same time, it's also funny to me. Here we go. So I said when Lord Hood went to attack Truth. Here's the second time that a faction leader with his main spaceship comes in to destroy Truth after you clear the way of anti-air to kill him. And then the Flood shows up and dumb luck, and alright, I guess we're not killing Truth with our giant spaceships. I find it just the fact that it happens twice in the same game, almost the same way, is very funny to me. But anyway, we fight through a bunch of Flood, we go back in. And unfortunately I didn't get a chance to talk about how those towers are different. So the second tower we just walked in through, it instead of having brutes and grunts and jackals, it actually has drones and hunters. So even though you're going through the same geometry again, they're using different enemies, which makes it a little bit more fun, because fighting drones and hunters is totally different than fighting jackals and grunts. And then we go back through that building, and this time we're fighting Flood. So now here's the third time we're fighting Scarabs, and the last time we're going to be fighting the Scarabs. And every Scarab fight, you're kind of given a different vehicle to fight it with. So the first Scarab fight, we had a Mongoose and rocket launchers as the vehicles that the game was offering us. And the second time, you saw that we had warthogs, but mainly the scorpion. And now we have the hornet, which you can see is just absolutely destroyed it. I even killed a banshee while knocking the scarab down. I just can't really get that Luke Skywalker perfect photon torpedo in to kill it, but you can see its little glowing lights, and there it is. Got the scarab. I'm not going to show killing the second one. Whatever, we killed them all. Just keep going.
Activate this bridge oracle.
The Arbiter actually gives a lot of exposition while in-game, and sometimes you just don't really hear it. He just said the Flood's clawing up the far wall, so the Flood are also on their way to kill Truth. And now it's a race to see who kills Truth first.
There are enemies crowd around.
And now here's the second time you see Truth in the game. So if you hadn't played Halo 2 before, Halo 3 establishes that Truth is the bad guy, but it is weird even now for me to think as Truth as the main villain of Halo 3. And he is. He's like the main antagonist. The Flood's in 2 levels up until now, this being one of the levels. And so I don't know how you could have made this not the problem, or how you could have made this not the case. I don't know how you could have fixed the problem, but
He wants you to kill him. I'd prefer that you did not.
Truth just gets so quiet there. He gets so quiet. I don't know. I think the Covenant voices could have been a lot louder.
Can't start your own party.
Anyway, yeah, so if you didn't know that even though Truth is like a scumbag and has the most punchable face of all time, their religion dictates that only Forerunners can activate the rings, so only humans can activate them. And here's Miranda coming in. And I don't know why my frame rate drops so hard here. It's got to be my Xbox loading the following fight. But anyway, get to see Miranda being a little bit of a badass. She gets that sweet pose. Unfortunately, there's no payoff for it. And I don't know if there is some sort of romantic connection or if they're just really good friends. I don't know, but you see like her face. She needs to like steel herself. And there she is. And there definitely feels like there's a lot of emotion going on here. And I really like this cutscene. It definitely implies something beyond just co-worker relationship. And oh, I love how he's holding the gun like it's disgusting. I love it. Truth, just such a gross looking villain.
You were weak, and gods must be strong.
God, I love it. Very hype. Long cutscene, but very worth the length of the cutscene, I think. Very good level. Arc. Building up to all of this, and this is Miranda's death. I think she's the first, she dies along with Keyes, or I guess Caps and Keyes are dead. And, they're dead, they're gone. I guess she's a main character, arguably. And now we gotta finish the fight.
Not choose, but listen. Let me lead you.
So this kind of reminds me, in terms of throwbacks, of how when you go to fight Tartarus and stop the rings from activating, you team up with the Hunters. And these Flood remind me of Hunters very much, and so that's kind of like the throwback I get. And in this level, you team up with the Flood to go down this massive, challenging hallway full of brutes and fuel rod cannons and stuff like that on your way to Truth. And eventually we get there, and now you can just sort of hear the Flood infecting all of these corpses as we're running our way to Truth to get him to stop the ring. Oh, man. And here we go.
Save the rest. Can you see, Arbiter?
I don't know exactly how
Moment of salvation.
Truth got infected, because you don't see like a parasite or anything on him, but you can clearly see like on his back of his neck and stuff like that he's infected. And goddamn if the Arbiter doesn't have the coolest set of lines
Beacons for
in this cutscene.
dead. I will have my revenge on a prophet, not a plague.
God, such a good line.
Feet tread the path. I shall become a god. You will be fooled.
Oh, it's such a gross tentacle.
Nothing more.
It's so gross.
No! I am truth, the voice of the covenant. So, you must be silenced.
Ah, another really good line. Man. I love it. Such a cool scene. Alright, we stopped Truth, we stopped Halo from activating, and yeah, alright. I think we might have forgotten something. Something's escaping my mind. Alright, the grave mine. Let's see his gross little grave mine tentacles. Which, unfortunately, we never actually get to see in-game. There's no tentacles in-game. Which is a little disappointing. And here are the grave mines rhyming for the first time all game. Very cool looking scene right here with the Arbiter and the Chief back to back.
We trade one villain for another.
And that's also a really good line from the Arbiter. And here we go, because you gotta put the tentacles away.
I can barely keep hold of
It's a little unfortunate because the game that could have used a boss fight the most would have been the third one, just defeating the grave mine. You can sort of see these rings up above, and the fourth one all the way back there is broken. That's because the ring we blew up in Halo 1 was Installation 04. We blew up the ring. And that's the ring they blew up, and that's like a pretty obvious thing to sort of to see, but it's still a nice touch all the same. We're gotta run through this whole area that we fought really hard through all these Covenant, but now we left all these corpses behind. The Flood are gonna take them over. See the broken Installation 04 ring right there, and there's a lot of, it's always like moving forward in Halo 3. You can see that I'm not really hunkering down and holding off an area. There are some of those moments in Halo 3, but most of the time you're always trying to progress to some place, and that's probably what the cost of backtracking. The cost of it is probably backtracking.
I'm a thief, but I keep what I steal.
All right, so this line is super important in the sense that you're now supposed to. This is the only time information. Because remember, Cortana has a specific plan to stop the Flood that is on High Charity from colliding with Earth. A very specific plan. Well, High Charity's now crashed into the Ark, so I'm very interested to hear what her plan is. And that's her plan. She's stolen something. What she has stolen is the activation index. Don't worry. They never tell you this. So she has the activation index, and you have to go get it. Right? And the Chief, based off of that line, has now jumped to the conclusion, oh yes, Cortana has the activation index. We will now activate something, and we will stop the Flood, because it will stop the Flood. And then you see how there's a massive lack of information all of a sudden. We've had so many long cutscenes and so much of Cortana's plan, and I guess this is Cortana being like, oh, this is my plan. Beep. I don't know how she figured any of this out. I don't know how she had access to any of this from being on High Charity, because she knew this before any of it, but whatever. The ending story kind of really falls apart in the sense when you're trying to figure out how all this works together, and here we see a replacement ring for the one that we blew up, a replacement ring for Halo 1. Chief's gotta got a wicked brain because he now knows Cortana has the activation index.
When did you
And now he has something to activate it.
Just now. But I had my hopes.
So as much as I have a problem with the Cortana plan thing, I do like this foreshadowed because this is where all the Sentinels left in that earlier cutscene. They went to go work on this. So they had some pretty good foreshadowing just to set this up. I like that a lot, but
How will you light it?
and there it is. How will you light it? Well, Cortana has the activation index. Remember she said I'm a thief, but I keep what I steal? There it is. All right, we're going to put it all together. And here we kind of see a little bit of a budget constraint as we're flying through concept art. But it's really nice looking concept art, so give it that. Now this level is called Cortana. And I don't think a lot of people like Cortana. I know I definitely didn't like this level the first couple of times I played it, but replaying it, I actually ended up liking it a reasonable amount. It's got some pretty cool moments in it, and we're actually on High Charity. So we're actually on High Charity, and so High Charity, if you don't remember from Halo 2, is this big Covenant space city. It's the capital, and it's purple. It's this massive amount of purple and like blue. I'm looking around. It feels a lot more like some spaceship crashed into a fleshy, tan planet than the fleshy, tan planet consuming High Charity. I think that's what it really looks like, and I think they did just a good job. Just overall, like the atmosphere of this place feels really disgusting, and again, it doesn't feel like High Charity. Not talking about atmosphere in like a Halo game, but I think it does a pretty good job. See, there's like water. There's all these little pus balls that if you break them, they explode into little infecting spores. Anyway, I think it looks really cool because if you don't think about it as High Charity, and even now, it just doesn't look like it, right? It looks like its own thing. And I don't know. I think they did a really good job, like art-wise and just design-wise. Now, unfortunately, we're not going to be seeing a lot more of this level. This level is very difficult, actually. Flood are very aggressive.
Submit! End her torment and my own!
I don't really understand what that line means. I don't know what his torment is, but I guess it's because she's fighting him, I guess? I don't know. Anyway, here we get to see some interesting little debris. Here's a bunch of skulls and bones and stuff of the Covenant that have been eaten by the Flood. This is kind of cool. And now, I don't know if I'm reading too much into this. Very much, well, could be. But we're almost exactly at the end of the level before we have to backtrack out of it. And here we have the most purple we'll ever see in the level. It's got a bunch of lights. It's very purple, and also the doors aren't those fleshy little sphincter-looking doors that you saw me walk through a couple times. Instead, they're regular-ass Covenant doors. And so I like to think that this is because this is Cortana holding off the Gravemind's influence as much as she can. I mean, you still see that there's a lot of Gravemind mushrooms and whatever this is, fleshy goops all over the place. I don't know. Maybe I'm giving the game too much credit. Maybe I nailed it with this being Cortana really holding off the Flood, and that's what it's supposed to symbolize, if it's supposed to symbolize anything. But I don't know. I thought about it, and it kind of made a lot of sense. See, like, these doors are working, stuff like that. The closer you get to Cortana, the more purple you see.
No more anger, no more envy.
You will show me what she hides, or I shall feast.
Again, I mentioned a couple of times, still not a very big fan of that. And very gameplay interrupting, and definitely is way less fun replaying the game.
This is UNSC AI serial number CTN.
Gotta squeeze this line in here.
I am a monument to all your sins.
And you can go watch the Halo 2 developer commentary to find out why that line's probably in here. And here we go. Cortana.
So much of me is wrong.
Spent the whole game without her.
Out of place. You might be too late.
And now we have her back. Kind of.
You know me. When I make a promise.
It is pretty weird to think about how Cortana just wasn't with us for most of the game. In fact, she's only going to be around for the last, like, 25% of this mission. And for the final level. And that's it. We're almost done with Halo 3. I don't know. It's weird. There's so little Cortana. So this cutscene is also kind of important to me complaining because Chief goes, "Do you still have it?" And she goes, "Yes, of course, the activation index." She had a plan that didn't involve that remade Halo ring. Right? Because the Flood were on High Charity heading towards Earth. So I don't know how I don't know what her plan was, and the game definitely ignores it. And I know it's like, oh, you're looking for a story in a first-person shooter. That's like a pretty big thing that they definitely kind of just. Listen, I've had to watch a lot of these cutscenes over and over again to make this video, and it has driven me a little insane. But anyway, I love this scene. I love you got the Arbiter. He shows up, and it kind of makes sense how he gets here. He's got like a pelican or whatever, and he's got a flamethrower, like from the cutscene. Ah, it's so cool. I love it. I just love it. Now, yes, this pelican's actually already here when, earlier in the game, there's a bunch of human marine corpses, but it works a lot better if you imagine that the Arbiter flew in here on a pelican to come and save you. Gotta love that growing bromance between these two. They became such good friends. And yeah, that was the Flood level. It's very difficult. It's a very difficult level. Backtracking out of it's actually done a little bit easier because there's a little shortcut that they make you go through because it's exploding. So they block off a couple ways and open up a new one. So you really only have to backtrack through a very small amount of the level. And here we go. We're getting ready to start the final bit of Halo 3.
We are aboard. Humans and elites.
Yeah.
You not come with us, brother.
So all the people who went in to stop Truth, they stopped Truth, and now they're gonna leave it up to 3 people and an AI to stop the Flood.
Yes, ma'am. I'll land her as close to the control room as I can.
Safe is better than close, Sergeant Major.
Roger that. Ma'am, it's good to have you back.
There's Johnson wearing a hat. I don't think he wears a hat the next time we see him, though, so I guess he must have taken it off. I mean, I'm not going to get too nitpicky about it, but... What's kind of cool about this scene is here you see Johnson driving the frigate. Is that what you do with spaceships? Do you drive spaceships? Pilot the frigate? Whatever.
Sure what will happen when we fire it.
We'll head for the portal. And we'll all go home.
And there it is. So nobody knows what's going to happen when we blow up the ring. Hopefully it blows up the Ark and the Grave Mine. And that's all the Flood from 2 rings destroyed. And they still have 5 more rings with Flood on it that they need to kill. Assuming that they killed all the Flood on the 2nd Halo ring. Here we go. We're getting ready. We've got some nice, quiet, somber music, and this is a pretty short walking section, really. Just pretty calm and relaxing. I like this section a lot. There's no combat in it. I'm just gonna take it easy. If we go to the right, I think there's a skull. I didn't talk at all about skulls in this game, and like, whatever. I don't really think I have to. Yeah, but so here we go. Just another callback section. And it is... We've gone to this activation of Halo room twice in Halo 1 and once in Halo 2. And now we get to go to it in Halo 3. It's a very familiar building if you've been playing the Halo games. And now we have to fight our way through the Flood to get there. That guy with the chieftain hammer is going to spawn every time you play the game. I love that line. That's like my favorite villain line.
Control room's at the top of that tower, Chief. Go.
All right, so now we got to get all the way up to this tower. And yeah, we're going to have the final holding off Alamo-like section where us, the Arbiter, and Sergeant Johnson is up on the right on the cliffs with a Spartan laser, and we're all going to be fighting off the Flood. Though as usual, it only matters if we die, then the game ends, so the Flood are constantly trying to get us. I dropped an auto turret, which is a pretty cool little campaign-only item. And yeah, we're just going to be fighting it off. And this is kind of like the end combat section, so we don't get a Gravemind boss fight. This is kind of like the boss fight, because this is actually a very difficult section. Sort of how Truth's boss fight was fighting a bunch of really hard Covenant, the hardest hitting Covenant with the scariest weapons to get to Truth. Now we have to fend off against just a whole bunch of Flood, and you see them just crawling up the tower and dropping down, which is really cool. And just fighting to get up here is a lot of work, and you can see I'm running out of bullets. I'm running out of so much stuff, just like hoping beyond hope that we can last. And you see like they have swords and shotguns, and they're the big hunter-like guys. Oh, they really didn't like my turret. Alright, we did it. We fended them off.
Welcome to the social.
Arbiter gives a little quip. This is fantastic. Johnson doesn't have a hat. Poor Johnson.
Open up! Coast is clear.
Not for long. I'm tracking additional dispersal pods. They'll be hitting any minute.
Chief, Arbiter, let's move!
Alright, and now we're getting ready to kind of the end. We only got a little bit more left to go with the game, and we've opened these doors before. We've walked down this path before.
Do I take life or give it? Who is victim and who is foe?
It's trying to rebuild itself on this ring.
And I guess the last time we're going to be interrupted by the Gravemind also, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. But it's the last time we're going to see it in the video anyway. And here we go. We got to go activate Halo. Now this I also don't entirely understand. And it will be the last nitpick that I have because the video is about to be over. I don't get why Sergeant Johnson has to be the one to plug in Cortana.
Thank me, Chief.
I don't get that. This.
I'm not gonna lose her, too.
I just don't understand it. But I do like the little detail of Johnson having like a bruise on his cheek or whatever, because he did get his ass kicked by a brute chieftain.
Oh, hello. Wonderful news. The installation is almost complete.
Terrific.
Yes, isn't it? I have begun my simulations. No promises, but initial results indicate this facility should be ready to fire in just a few more days.
We don't have a few more days.
But a premature firing will destroy the Ark.
Deal with it.
Will destroy this installation.
And there he goes. Poor Johnson. It's such a rough game. Yeah, it's so rough. And here we have the laser guilty spark. Yeah, so this is where we fought the guilty spark and the Sentinels when he turned on us in Halo 1. And now we get to finally kill him. Which is actually pretty satisfying. He did become a good guy, and he was fun as a good guy, but at the same time, he was super annoying in Halo 1 as a villain, and absolutely have earned the right to kill him. He's got a little pushback, he's immune to bullets.
Not for long.
And that's just a really cool line. It's a nice little delivery. I'm glad I caught that out of all the things I didn't catch. Oh, that's such a cool line. It's unfortunate how silly his little ragdoll-y death animation looks, but you can't make everything perfect. And now we are just going to be Spartan lasering him. And I do like how the Spartan laser is permanently at 80, just because Johnson did fire at Guilty Spark, so it can't be at 100. It's a nice little detail I like, and unfortunately we don't get the infinite ammo Spartan laser. I'm trying to switch out the Spartan laser for the shotgun, and I'm just too slow. Music's swelling up. It's a sad moment. Sergeant Johnson's definitely my favorite character from Halo, so it's disappointing.
I'm getting you out of here.
No, you're not. No, don't let her go. Don't ever let her go. Send me out with a bang.
Ah, Johnson. Gotta end on some type of quip. He's great, though. It's a pretty big moment. We lost Miranda and we lost Johnson, and a pretty powerful death. Sergeant Johnson was a very likable character. I'll repeat it again. My favorite character from the series. All nitpicks aside, the story definitely does get you really hype, and when you're in the moment and you're not spending hours editing a video together, you don't really think about all these things that I talked about. Like, why does Sergeant Johnson have to plug in Cortana, since he's the only person who gets one shot by Spark's laser beam? Anyway, we've activated Halo. We're gonna be blowing up Halo again. And now we have to take Johnson's Warthog and get to the frigate and get off the ring and through the portal before who knows what happens, and a massive explosion, hypothetically. Here's that classic Halo music. You get the drums. Awesome. And this is the throwback to Halo 1, just like driving through the Pillar of Autumn, but now we're driving through not the Pillar of Autumn. I thought I was going to have something better to say there, but here we go. It's a pretty cool moment, pretty hype. You know, I got all these explosions and stuff like that, making it through, and the structures in the buildings start toppling over, and if you look in the background, you can see a bunch of objects just smashing into these little construction panels that we're driving on, and very cool. And unlike the Pillar of Autumn, which is very narrow, we have a lot more. We have a couple narrow areas here in the Halo 3 section, but most of it's very wide. It's very open, which makes driving a lot more fun. Just because you don't want to be stuck and constantly flipping over and things like that. And again, Halo 3 just really wants to go out on a high note, really, and they have this big dramatic thing. So now we're not just fighting the Flood, we're fighting the Sentinels. See this massive piece of level just crash. Very cool stuff. A lot of physics. A lot of engine physics flying around with all these panels crashing into us and stuff. Very hype. And above us you can see the arc in the background. Unfortunately, it's a very dramatic moment, so I don't have time to angle the camera up, but there's so much detail put into the background of Halo 3. It just looks really good. So even though I personally don't really think these panels look very good, but they get away with it because they're supposed to be constructing the world. I do think the background looks really good, and they talk about it in the Halo 2 commentary. They really wanted you to jump a Warthog into a ship, so if you couldn't do it in Halo 2, do it in Halo 3. Here you go, and the music just seamlessly blends into the cutscene. I didn't do that. That was all the audio team for Halo 3. Now, I don't really get why that had to be in the game, this whole Warthog chasing after them, but you get this adorable head nod between these two bros.
Hang on.
listen, I'm not gonna nitpick, but I feel like we can all figure out that there's definitely some stuff that could happen right now that could prevent the following thing from being threatening or meaning anything. No, Cortana doesn't in fact shut the door.
Chief!
She instead reaches out her artificial digital hand. Man, this shot is so cool. I love the effects on on the ring, and then this. Ah, such a good shot. This one coming up. Ooh, I love that lighting. And there we go, blowing up the arc.
If we don't make it,
We'll make it.
It's been an honor serving with you, John.
And that's a nice callback to when they landed on Halo. And Chief goes, "We'll be fine." Oh wait, does he say we'll make it? You know what? Maybe it's not a callback. I'll edit it out.
For
Closing
us,
speech by Ron
the storm
Perlman.
has passed. The war is over. But let us never forget those who journeyed into the howling dark and did not return. For their decision required courage beyond measure.
It's pretty nice that they added all these pictures and stuff of them.
And unshakable
Just because you could easily have gotten away with not having any of that there and just having like flowers or something.
was elsewhere.
And you can see that the ship was broken in half, and only the Arbiter
As we start
remains
to rebuild,
out of the
this
3 people
hillside
and
will
1 AI
remain
that
barren.
stayed behind.
A memorial to heroes fallen. They ennobled all of us.
And there's the shadow of intent in the
They shall
background.
not be forgotten.
And it's kind of nice, that shot, with them all being silhouetted.
I remember how this war started, what your kind did to mine. I can't forgive you. But you have my thanks for standing by him to the end. Hard to believe he's dead.
Were it so easy.
That's again, yeah, they have the Arbiter delivering all these lines that just sound so cool. Maybe it's keep David's delivery, but pretty good.
Things look different without the Prophet's lies clouding my vision. I would like to see our own world, to know that it is safe. Fear not, for we have made it so. By your word, Arbiter. Take us home.
And now the elites are going home, and that's the end of Halo 3. Yeah, kind of definitely ran out of things to talk about during it. But this was just something different that I was gonna do, and you know, I'll read this next thing for Bungie since they're not here to read it. Thanks for playing Halo 3, and thanks for being a part of the engine that drives us toward our ultimate goal of world domination. Thanks for giving Bungie a community that has kicked ass throughout the years and will continue to kick ass for many, many more. Love Bungie. Alright, yep, so, I don't know. This is just a kind of weird little video, putting it together. I really like Halo, I really like Halo 3, and I really wish there was a official, proper Halo 3 director commentary. Instead we got me talking over it, and I don't know. Just trying to do something a little bit different with each Halo video I end up making. I really liked Halo 3, and I hope you guys enjoyed this, or at least enjoyed watching Halo 3 get played and all the cutscenes and stuff. Very good game, I think. Definitely more forgotten about. I don't really hear people talking a lot about Halo games anymore, because they kind of fallen off a little bit to the wayside, and unfortunately, because after this, Bungie will split up to have 2 teams, 1 team on, or I guess 3 teams, 1 team on ODST, 1 team on Reach, and 1 team on Destiny. You're not really going to get a lot of these directors and big influences that all came together for Halo 3 working together again. And a lot of these people won't be around for Destiny. And they all kind of go off and they go their own way and stuff like that, which is a shame because I think they did a lot of really good things and they made a really interesting, enjoyable game series. The Halo trilogy is one of my favorite first-person shooter series, if not my favorite first-person shooter series. And I think they did a really good job, and I have a lot of problems with the story, but again, I guess you had to make cuts, and I'm sure levels got cut and stuff like that, because it always happens, and we can't... can't do it all, right? Can't do it all, so... wanting more is never, ever the worst complaint. Alright, that's gonna do it. So, I'm gonna leave you guys with the ending scene, which is a little somber, a little bittersweet, I guess, but you gotta also think about it from the perspective of Bungie. They worked on Halo for so long. It's the game that really made them this big studio, and well, they're done with it. They're done with the Master Chief saga, so I'm sure it's relieving, but at the same time, a little sad. A little saddening. So I guess the final cutscene makes a lot of sense through that lens, but again, I have no idea. I didn't work on Halo 3. I don't know. So, just my interpretation of what it could mean. I'll leave you guys with that, and that's going to do it. Thanks for watching.
Chief? Can you hear me? I thought I'd lost you too.
What happened?
I'm not sure. When Halo fired, it shook itself to pieces. Did a number on the Ark. The portal couldn't sustain itself. We made it through just as it collapsed. Well, some of us made it. But you did it. Truth and the Covenant, the Flood, it's finished.
It's finished.
I'll drop a beacon, but it'll be a while before anyone finds us. Years, even. I'll miss you.
Wake me.